Our story begins in ancient China, where we meet Yang Guifei, who's so smoking hot that she's got the emperor wrapped around her little finger. We're talking thousands of women vying for his attention, and she blows them all out of the water. But get this, her beauty's not all it's cracked up to be. It nearly brings down the whole Tang Dynasty. Despite being considered one of the three most beautiful women in the world, Yang Guifei constantly struggled with the weight of her actions and the perception of being a terrible person. Fast forward to now, in the heart of Tokyo. It's your typical bustling street scene, people rushing left and right. Then this chick catches your eye. She's strutting down the sidewalk like she's walking the red carpet, heels clicking away. You'd think she's on top of the world, but inside, she's a total mess, drowning in memories. Now here's where it gets juicy. Our girl? She's got some major hang-ups about looks. She doesn't think she's all that, and she's got this weird dislike for pretty girls. So when she accidentally bumps into these two gorgeous ladies, you can feel the tension in the air. She tries to apologize, but these girls, they smell blood. Instead of letting it slide, they go full-on mean girls. We're talking nasty comments, snide remarks, the works. It's like they decided to make her their personal punching bag for the day. Our protagonist? She books it out of there faster than you can say low self-esteem. She holds it together until she finds a quiet corner. Then the waterworks start. This whole mess? It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Next scene, we're in a doctor's office. Meet Mikiko. Yep, that's our girl's name. She's staring at herself in the mirror like she's seeing a ghost. The doc's rambling on about some procedure, but Mikiko's mind is elsewhere. She's taking a trip down memory lane, and it ain't pretty. She's back in high school, reliving every cruel taunt and mocking laugh. There's this one memory that really sticks. Some mean girl acting like Mikiko's got cooties or something, setting off a chain reaction of laughter from her posse. It's the kind of stuff that leaves scars, you know? All this baggage, it's what's pushed Mikiko to this point. She's sick and tired of feeling like she's not good enough, like she's some kind of ugly duckling. And now, she's ready to do something about it, no matter what it takes. The next scene takes us back to how it all began. We see this guy from Mikiko's school, Saro-kun, who by the way is part of the mean crowd. He asks her out on a date. But get this, he looks like he'd rather watch paint dry. Mikiko? She's blushing so hard she could be mistaken for a tomato. She says yes, because of course she does. But then, those mean girls from earlier, they pop up out of nowhere like some twisted jack-in-the-box. They're snapping pics and hurling insults like it's their job. Fugly is just the tip of the iceberg. Poor Mikiko's hit rock bottom. Later, we find her in the bathroom, surrounded by bits of broken mirror. She's staring at her fractured reflection, her mind racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. She's desperate for a way out of this mess. Then it hits her, Yoyogi cosmetic surgery. Bingo! Fast forward, and Mikiko's busting her butt to save up for the surgery. Her folks chip in too, bless them. And then, boom! She emerges from that exam room like a butterfly from a cocoon. Heads are turning so fast, you'd think they're on swivels. Mikiko's walking on cloud 9, feeling herself for the first time ever. She's so caught up in the moment, she doesn't even see the car coming. Next thing you know, she's sprawled on the ground, her mind swirling with thoughts of what could have been, love, happiness, the whole shebang, as everything fades to black. But hold up, 'cause this ain't the end. Mikiko wakes up, but something's off. This ain't Kansas anymore. She's trying to piece together what happened when suddenly there's drama unfolding right in front of her. Two princesses are going at it, and get this. They're speaking Mandarin. And Mikiko, she understands every word. What the F is happening? But that's not even the craziest part. One of these princesses, she's Mikiko's doppelganger. Things take a dark turn really quickly when someone orders to end her. Mikiko watches in horror as her lookalike fights for her life, but it's no use. She's toast. Mikiko's trying to keep it together, but she's shaking like a leaf. She tries to hide, but wouldn't you know it, she gives herself away. Now the killer princess is talking about burying 2 bodies instead of 1. Mikiko's heart is pounding so hard it might just burst out of her chest. Okay, so Mikiko's in deep shit now. You know how when you're scared shitless, your body's supposed to kick into fight or flight mode? Well, Mikiko's body didn't get the memo. She's frozen stiff, like a deer in headlights. her brain screaming, "Run!" but her legs are all, "Nah, we're good here." This evil princess chick is ordering her goons to kill Mikiko, and our girl's thinking, seriously? Twice in one day? She's praying for a miracle. Any miracle. And then, like some cosmic joke, a freaking rabbit shows up. I kid you not. Suddenly, it's like someone hit Mikiko's reset button. She's off like a shot, chasing this bunny and yelling at it to wait up. 'Cause that's totally normal, right? The soldiers, they're standing there with their jaws on the floor, wondering what the hell just happened. But that evil princess, she's not buying it. She's got that "I'm gonna get you" vibe going on. So now we've got this ridiculous chase scene. Mikiko's running like her ass is on fire, gasping for air, with these soldiers hot on her heels. And all the while, her brain's going a mile a minute, trying to make sense of this whole dead or alive situation. Out of nowhere, this building pops up. Mikiko's first thought, great, I've made it to hell. But she doesn't have time to dwell on that because those soldiers are still after her. So she's back to chasing that damn rabbit, accidentally freaking out some poor villager in the process. Meanwhile, we've got these two fancy pants nobles bitching about some lady who stood them up. One of them's all, "Let's go hunting," but his buddy's not feeling it. They're about to get into it when they hear something. And there's Mikiko, finally running out of steam. She's on her knees, probably cursing whoever thought running in period clothing was a good idea, and silently begging for help. One of the soldiers is about to go all Mortal Kombat on her when, bam! One of those nobles swoops in like a medieval superhero and knocks the guy on his ass. Mikiko's sitting there, catching her breath and eyeing this guy, wondering if she's just jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. Talk about a crazy day, huh? So the soldiers are fuming, charging at Mikiko's savior like bulls seeing red. But this guy? He's cool as a cucumber, shaming them for ganging up on a lone woman. The head honcho tries to play it cool, suggesting they hand over the girl and go their separate ways. But our hero's not buying what they're selling. He's ready to rumble if that's how it's gonna be. Out of nowhere, he bellows for someone named Zikong, and just like that, it's ambush o'clock. This Zikong dude drops in like he's auditioning for a ninja movie, ripping into the soldiers for daring to point their swords at his master. He makes quick work of the goons, leaving their leader for his boss to handle. Meanwhile, Mikiko's over there, getting a front row seat to how cheap life can be in this world. The last man standing decides to go out with a bang, charging at Mikiko with some fancy blade work. But her knight in shining armor's right there, swatting those blades away like they're nothing more than annoying flies. Now, here's the kicker. In the middle of all this madness, we find out Mikiko's crushing hard on her savior. Talk about picking your moments, right? She's got hearts in her eyes, while this guy's turning soldiers into human pincushions. Zikong starts cackling like a loon, poking fun at some incompetent prince. But the other guy shuts him up faster than you can say, "off with his head." Then, things get weird. The prince turns to Mikiko and calls her Yu Huan. She's more confused than a chameleon in a bag of Skittles. Zikong chimes in, saying he spotted her earlier but just now recognized her. Talk about being fashionably late to the party. Prince Charming starts grilling Mikiko about what went down, concern written all over his face. She's still hung up on this Yu Huan business, but manages to stammer out that she's clueless and doesn't know who he is. In a hot second, this guy goes from battle-hardened warrior to sappy romance novel hero. He's down on one knee, tilting her chin up like he's about to serenade her or something. He's wondering out loud why she can't remember her husband's face, while Mikiko's giving him a look that screams, "I am so lost right now." Mikiko's still reeling from this whole identity crisis when she suddenly remembers that this guy's wife was the one who was actually killed earlier. She's trying to tell him she's not who he thinks she is, but he's too busy swooning over her looks to listen. Talk about selective hearing, right? Her heart's doing the cha-cha slide in her chest, probably because no one's ever called her beautiful before. Meanwhile, Zikong's over there with this shit-eating grin, telling them to get a room. Mikiko, or Yu Huan, or whoever she is now, grabs her supposed hubby's hand and tries to drag him off to save his actual wife. But the next thing you know, she suddenly passes out, and Prince Charming cradles her like she's made of glass. Zikong's there, wondering if she's gone cuckoo from the attack or if she's up to something. Fast forward a bit, and our girl's waking up from her nap. She's more confused than a goldfish in a bowl of jello, trying to figure out where the heck she is. There's this little maid there who introduces herself as Ye Xiaolin. Poor kid nearly jumps out of her skin when Mikiko speaks. Mikiko's still trying to convince everyone she's not this Yuhuan chick, but it's like talking to a brick wall. Xiaolin's not buying it, going on about how uniquely beautiful she is. Finally, Mikiko throws in the towel and admits she's lost her memory. Xiaolin's reaction? Pure soap opera gold. The maid gives her the Cliff's Notes version of local history. There's this Prince Shou Wang ruling the Tang Dynasty, keeping China peaceful and whatnot. At that moment, Mikiko's brain starts doing somersaults, trying to connect the dots. Then bam, it hits her like a ton of bricks. She remembers her mom binge-watching this historical drama called The Tale of Yang Guifei. Suddenly she's feeling all tingly, like she just stuck her finger in an electrical socket. She's got goosebumps, her chest feels tight, and she's wondering if she's actually Yang Guifei. You know, one of the 3 hottest babes in history. The maid's eyeing Yuhuan like she's trying to crack some ancient code. Meanwhile, Yuhuan's lost in her own little world, replaying scenes from some Chinese drama in her head. She's fixated on this emperor dude who's so torn up about losing his wife that he's got his sights set on marrying his son's wife. The maid pipes up about her husband, Shou Wang, showing up, but Yuhuan's still stuck in TV land, muttering about forced marriages. Instructs Shou Wang, giving Yuhuan the once-over. He's not buying her whole amnesia act. Poor Xiaolin tries to explain, but Shou Wang's not having it. He tells the maid to keep Yuhuan in check and drops this little bombshell about her never leaving the palace. What a charmer. Night rolls around, and wouldn't you know it, Yuhuan's pulling a Houdini. She's tiptoeing around like she's in some B-grade spy flick, convinced Shou Wang's gonna serve her up to his dad on a silver platter. But just as she's tasting freedom, bam, a sword nearly turns her into a human pincushion. Turns out, it's Zikong, laughing his head off. He calls her out for being so predictable. Yuhuan tries to explain herself, but Zikong is not interested. He's all threats and jokes about gut stabbing before sauntering off to bed, leaving Yuhuan a whimpering mess. Morning comes, and there's Yuhuan having a full-on existential crisis in front of the mirror. Her maid's freaking out about hair, of all things, but Yuhuan's got bigger fish to fry. Then boom. Xiaolin drops the bomb about Consort Wu Huifei showing up. You know, just Shou Wang's mom and a Tang Dynasty queen. No pressure or anything. Cut to Consort Wu making her grand entrance. She goes on about Yuhuan being MEA, and Shou Wang's doing his best impression of a confused puppy. Meanwhile, Xiaolin's practically shoving Yuhuan out to meet the in-law from hell. Yuhuan shows up, all apologies, and Consort Wu looks like she's seen a ghost. She's probably thinking she needs to get her eyes checked because wasn't this chick supposed to be out of the picture? All right, so the plot thickens. Consort Wu's eyeing Yuhuan like she's some kind of ghost, asking if she's the real deal. Yuhuan's about to spill the beans when she spots that bracelet from earlier. Suddenly, it all clicks. This queen is the one who killed the real Yuhuan. Meanwhile, Consort Wu's smirking like the cat that got the cream, pressing Yuhuan about her identity. Our girl's head is spinning, trying to make sense of it all. I mean, she saw Yuhuan bite the dust with her own eyes. Just when things are getting real dicey, in swoops Shou Wang like some medieval knight in shining armor. He tells his mom about Yuhuan losing her marbles in an accident, forgetting her name, her hubby, the whole 9 yards. Yuhuan's thinking, well, guess this is my life now. She's also wondering why this guy's suddenly so protective. What's his angle? But before she can ponder that too long, in sachets this new chick, all grace and poise. Turns out she's some distant relative of a courtesan, named Zhou Meiyin. And get this, Consort Wu's all for moving her into Shou Wang's place. Why? Because apparently he needs to collect wives like Pokemon to be the next emperor. Yuhuan's standing there, jaw on the floor, watching this mom basically give her son the green light to cheat right in front of his wife. It's like some twisted historical soap opera. Shou Wang's just like, cool, whatever, and bails. But Mommy Dearest isn't done. She's whispering sweet nothings about how Shou Wang's life will be trash if he doesn't play ball. This sets Yuan off, bringing back some nasty flashbacks from her past life. Next thing you know, Yuan's seeing red. She's muttering under her breath, then boom! She goes full volcano on Consort Wu, telling her to zip it. Everyone's shocked, including Shou Wang, who's halfway out the door. Yuan's on a roll now, getting right in the queen's face. She's preaching about how it's not cool for anyone, queen or not, to judge someone's worth. The tension's so thick you could cut it with a sword. The prince is thrown for a loop by Yuan's outburst. He's thinking back to her earlier identity crisis, wondering if there might be some truth to it after all. Out of nowhere, the queen delivers a powerful slap Yuan's face. But our girl? She's not backing down, giving the queen a death glare that could curdle milk. Just then, Shou Wang slides in between them like he's auditioning for a kung fu movie. He's all about that soothing tea life, trying to calm everyone down. The queen takes the bait, slipping back into her regal persona. Everyone heads inside, leaving Yuan in the dust. She's shouting after them, but they're ignoring her like she's yesterday's news. Even her so-called hubby's giving her the cold shoulder. Talk about adding insult to injury. Yuan's having a bit of an existential crisis. She's kicking herself for losing her cool, remembering her plan to fly under the radar. But then those old memories come flooding back, reminding her why she got all fired up in the first place. While she's having this mental tug-of-war, she overhears some juicy gossip. It's the queen and that Zhou Meiyin chick. Meiyin's whining about not getting to be Shou Wang's queen and wondering why Yuan's still kicking around. Yuan's piecing it all together now. The queen's got this backup wife plan going on. She's hissing at Meiyin to keep it down while she spills the tea about killing the real Yuan. Now she's all paranoid, wondering if Yuan's got a secret twin or something. The queen's still steaming about Yuan's little outburst. Her new plan? Get Meiyin knocked up with Shou Wang's kid. Apparently, Yuan's been shooting blanks for 2 years, making her about as useful as a chocolate teapot in the queen's eyes. Meiyin's all over this plan like white on rice. The two of them saunter off, leaving Yuan breathing a sigh of relief in her hiding spot. Later, we find Yuan lost in thought, trying to figure out how to avoid ending up 6 feet under. Suddenly, this new guy pops up, scaring the living daylights out of her. Turns out it's Shou Wang's little bro. He's doing the whole introduction thing, playing along with her supposed amnesia. So, Yuan's brain is going a mile a minute, thinking about how tight Shou Wang and the real Yuan used to be. She grins, thinking she's got one less enemy to worry about. But hold up, this dude's got other ideas. He wraps his arm around her waist, whispering sweet nothings about getting closer. He's going in for the kill, aiming for her lips. Meanwhile, Shou Wang's lurking in the shadows, looking like he's sucking on a lemon. Just as Shou Wang's about to seal the deal, Yuan snaps out of it. She shoves him off like he's on fire, screaming bloody murder about how out of line he is. I mean, he's her husband's brother, for crying out loud. Meanwhile, Shou Wang's over there. Looking smug as a bug in a rug, Shou Wang's thrown for a loop by her reaction. He's trying to play it cool, going on about how jealous he is that she's suddenly all about his brother. He's still trying to charm her, stroking her hair and calling her cute. But Yuan's not having it. She slaps his hand away, warning him to watch his step or she'll make him eat his words when her memory comes back. The guy finally takes the hint and bails, all huffy about her holier-than-thou attitude. Yuan's kicking herself, realizing she's just blown her cover sky high. She's trying to wrap her head around this whole messed-up family situation. A mom who thinks her son's worthless. A brother who's playing house with his sister-in-law. She's feeling bad for Shou Wang, caught in the middle of this soap opera. Shou Wang's watching her from afar, seeing the genuine emotion on her face. But before he can make a move, she's off to the garden. Later that night, Shou Wang's tossing and turning, thinking about his wife. He decides to pay her a visit. But wouldn't you know it, he gets intercepted by Little Miss Cleavage herself. She's all smiles and batting eyelashes, going on about how excited she is to see him and how much she admires him. Shou Wang's wondering if this is some kind of gift from Mommy Dearest. Instead of shutting it down, he invites her into his room. The door closes behind them, and we're left wondering what the hell just happened. The next day, Yuhuan and her maid are playing detective around the mansion, hoping to jog some memories. The maid's optimistic, thinking this last tour will do the trick. But Yuhuan just laughs it off, knowing it's about as likely as pigs flying. Suddenly, they hear footsteps and their chill vibe turns frosty. It's Miss Flowers in her hair, Zhou Meiyin, with her entourage. Yuhuan puts on her best fake smile, but she can't help but notice the small army trailing behind this chick. She's thinking, isn't this a bit much for a backup wife? As Zhou Meiyin swans past, her groupies start gossiping like it's their job. They're not even trying to be subtle, going on about how their mistress spent the night in Shou Wang's room. They're cackling about how he'll obviously choose Meiyin and how pathetic Yuhuan is. Their laughter's about as pleasant as nails on a chalkboard. Shaolin loses it, ranting like a mad bunny after these human trash bags pass by. But Yuhuan? She's cool as a cucumber on the outside, even though she's disgusted by how quick Shou Wang moved on. Day 1, and he's already playing the field. Her mind wanders back to yesterday's run-in with Sheng Wang. His face is all she can picture as she thinks about confronting Shou Wang. She tells Shaolin it's time to bounce, wishing she'd never wasted an ounce of sympathy on her two-timing husband. Yuhuan's feeling pretty down in the dumps, wondering why she even bothered with plastic surgery if she's destined to be unlucky in love. Meanwhile, Zhou Meiyin's still on her victory march to her room, but she's steaming about bumping into Yuhuan. In her head, she's ripping into the ignorant commoner, feeling pretty smug about trashing her rival's rep. In the next scene, we flash back to Zhou Meiyin's big night with Shou Wang. She's all revved up, expecting some action, but Shou Wang pulls a fast one. He's just offering her the bed while he plans to crash elsewhere. Meiyin's thrown for a loop, stumbling over apologies for coming on too strong. Then Shou Wang drops a bombshell that nearly knocks Meiyin off her feet. He claims he's only into men, begging her to keep it under wraps from his mom. Meiyin's not buying it, though. She thinks he's just playing hard to get, so she cranks up the charm, thinking she's got this in the bag. But Shou Wang does not even glance at her assets. He's staring off into space like she's invisible. Meiyin's wheels start turning, and she accuses him of loving someone else, throwing out Yuan's name as bait. But Shou Wang's not biting. He just repeats his line about loving men and bails. Back in the present, Meiyin's seething. She replays the rejection in her head, getting more worked up by the second. She zeroes in on Yuan, blaming her beauty and attitude for her own failure. You can practically see the gears turning as she plots her revenge. Meanwhile, Shaolin's looking like someone just canceled her favorite show. All her efforts to jog Yuan's memory have flopped. But then she perks up, deciding to spill the tea on the real Princess Yuan. Shaolin's suddenly full of life, dishing out the dirt. Apparently, the real Yuan was one ice queen when she was mad. Yuan's piecing it together, figuring that's why so many people had it out for her. Just as they're about to continue their mansion tour, who should show up but Mr. Royal himself, Shou Wang. He's trying to get Yuan to talk, but she's not having it. She shuts him down with a smile, leaving Shaolin gasping like she's just witnessed a scandalous scene in a drama. So the prince is standing there, jaw practically on the floor at Yuan's cold shoulder. He's all, "What gives?" But Yuan's mind is a hot mess of anger over his cheating ways. She tries to bolt, wishing he'd take the hint and buzz off, but he grabs her hand. Big mistake. She loses it, screaming at him like he's got the plague or something. The air's so thick with tension you could cut it with a knife. Yuan's even shocked at her own outburst. She's wondering why her body's rejecting him like bad sushi. But then again, in this world of theirs, cheating's as common as breathing. Her brain's going a mile a minute, thinking maybe if she were cuter, someone would look at her the way he does. Then she's beating herself up for being such a newbie in the love department. She's still spiraling, realizing she can't stand his touch, not after he's been all hands-on with another chick. Yeah, she's jealous, but she's not about to admit that. So she walks off, shutting down any lingering pity for the guy. Meanwhile, Shou Wang's getting more suspicious by the second about this whole memory loss thing. He's thinking there's gotta be more to this story. Cut to Zhou Meiyin, playing detective with some old-timers. She's fishing for dirt on Yuan, soaking up every juicy detail. These geezers, not realizing they're feeding the drama monster, are painting Yuan as this ice queen who only married the prince for the perks. They're going on about how she's colder than a polar bear's toenails towards her hubby. Mayin's eating this up like it's her last meal, pushing for more gossip. But when she asks about some rumor, the old folks give her some half-baked answer. Talk about a letdown. Just then, speak of the devil, Yuan struts in looking like she's sucked on a lemon. Mayin switches gears faster than a race car driver, all smiles and sugar. She's fawning over Yuan like they're besties, inviting her to this tea party for a quick chat. But Yuan's not buying what Mayin's selling. She's been around the block enough to smell BS a mile away. Still, Yuan's like, game on, sister. She accepts the invite, ready to throw down if that's how it's gonna be. It's like watching a chess match where all the pieces are grenades. Jo Mayin squeals like she's just won the lottery, all oh how wonderful. She practically skips as she leads Yuan to the tea table. On the way, she hums this tune that makes Yuan's skin crawl. Yuan just rolls her eyes so hard they might get stuck trying to keep her cool. Now Yuan's brain is going a mile a minute, wondering what this sneaky chick's game is. As they sit, Jo Mayin just casually drops that Shou Wang belongs to her now. Like she's talking about borrowing a sweater or something. But Yuan doesn't even bat an eyelash. She saw this childish BS coming from a mile away. Yuan's mind drifts back to her old life, remembering how her classmates used to claw each other's eyes out over some guy who couldn't care less about them. It's like deja vu, Palace Edition. She's thinking, girl, this world was made for my beauty, and flashes Jo Mayin this smile that could freeze hell over. Meanwhile, poor Shaolin nearly jumps out of her skin when the elders bark at her to fetch some sweets. Yuan's like, go on, I'll be fine, and Shaolin scurries off like her butt's on fire. Next thing you know, Jo Mayin's inviting Yuan into this fancy-looking room. But surprise, it's a trap. Jo Mayin slams the door and locks it. And just when you think it can't get any worse, guess who pipes up? Shou Wang. Yuan's freaking out, yanking on the door and yelling for Jo Mayin. But that sneaky flower lady's playing dumb. All, oh no, it's broken. Yeah, right. Then Shou Wang chimes in, saying he's so glad she accepted his invitation. Yuan's head is spinning faster than a washing machine on a spin cycle. She's realizing she's been played like a fiddle, kicking herself for underestimating Jo Mayin. And Jo Mayin? She's out there announcing it's time to wrap things up like she's just finished a game show. This is her big moment, folks. Next thing we know, Shou Wang's creeping up on Yuan. He makes a grab for her, but she slaps him so hard his ancestors probably felt it. That wipes the smirk right off his face. He begins to go on about her last memory for the umpteenth time. He then begins to recount their complex history, detailing their identities as sons of the Tang Dynasty. He mentions that 30 princes were gunning for the throne, and Shou Wang's the frontrunner. But plot twist, he's number 18 in line. Yuan finds this strange, given that heirs are typically chosen by age, but apparently Mommy Dearest is pulling the strings. Shou Wang's dishing out more dirt than a gossip columnist. He's talking about how his mom outmaneuvered Empress Wang, forcing her to abdicate her position. His mother now sits as the favored queen, having won Emperor Wang's heart. He compares Yuan's current status to that of an empress, noting their similar authority. Shou Wang reveals his mother's ambition to make Shou Wang the crown prince, with the ultimate goal of seizing power for herself, aspiring to be the first female ruler of the Tang Dynasty, much like Wu Zetian. Shou Wang mutters about this being the perfect role for the incompetent prince, a phrase that strikes Yuan as familiar, reminding her of Zikong's previous comments. But wait, there's more. Shou Wang drops the mother of all bombs. Apparently, the real Yuan was in cahoots with him. He recalls her interest in becoming empress, which led her to form a secret pact with him. He unveils their joint plan to eliminate his brother, followed by his mother once he ascends to the throne, thereby fulfilling Yuan's ambition to become empress. Our girl's piecing it all together, thinking maybe Yuan's death was payback. But she's not about to play along with this psycho soap opera. She tells Shou Wang to forget the past and their little deal. Big mistake. Shou Wang's not taking no for an answer. He knocks her down and pins her like a wrestler. Now he's giving her a choice. Refresh her memory the easy way or the hard way. Yuhuan's brain is working overtime, her thoughts screaming left and right. She's clenching her fists so tight you'd think she's trying to squeeze diamonds out of coal, all while giving Shou Wang a death glare that could melt steel. Her eyes are darting around the room like a trapped animal, looking for any way out of this mess. But Shou Wang's not having it, and that just earns him another glare hot enough to start a forest fire. In a move that's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, Yuhuan basically tells him to do his worst. She's sticking to her guns about their secret plan being over. Trying to get under his skin, she takes a jab at his ego, calling herself his weakness. Big mistake. Shou Wang lands a heavy slap on her cheeks. She threatens to tattle to hubby dearest, but Shou Wang's got an ace up his sleeve. He lets her know what is at stake, judging by the way she ill-treated him in the past, and also pointing out the fact she had betrayed him in the past. Moving forward, he spills snippets of her fate if she ever confesses. With this, he grabs her even more as she is entangled in a struggling mess. Meanwhile, outside this little drama bubble, Zhou Meiyin's playing her part to perfection. She's fawning over Shou Wang like he's the last dumpling at a royal feast, gushing about their stroll. But she's sly as a fox, steering him right towards the unfolding chaos. Shou Wang's ears perk up like a hound on a hunt when he hears muffled sounds. He peeks into the room and it's like someone just stabbed him in the heart with a rusty chopstick. There's his brother, on top of his wife. Zhou Meiyin cranks up the drama with some Oscar-worthy fake surprise. Poor Shou Wang's stuck between a rock and a hard place, torn between causing a scene worthy of the Imperial Theater or just slinking away to lick his wounds. But just as Zhou Meiyin's trying to play the comforting damsel, hugging him like she's a human bandage, something clicks in Shou Wang's head. An image of Yuhuan's tear-stained face flashes through his mind like a bolt of lightning. And just like that, he's off, charging towards the scene of the crime. Next scene, we see our dear female lead completely tied up as Shou Wang towers over her. She's not going down without a fight, though, smacking him with all the fury of 1,000 scorned empresses. She's screaming her lungs out, telling him where he can shove that pact of theirs. Consequences be damned. But Shou Wang? He's grinning like a cat that just found the keys to the royal cream factory. Yuhuan's going on about justice and all that jazz, which just seems to amuse him more. He's noticing how different she is from the old Yuhuan, and boy, does he like what he sees. The creep's practically drooling as he confesses how badly he wants her while ripping her clothes. Our girl's silently praying for a miracle. And what do you know? The universe delivers. Bam! The door flies open like it's been hit by an imperial battering ram. It's Shou Wang, coming in hot like an avenging dragon. He delivers a powerful kick to his brother, who luckily protects himself. Shou Wang is completely surprised at his brother's strength, making a comment coated with genuine disdain, but the elder brother dismisses his thoughts and rather inquires about what had happened. Shou Wang lies with audacity, spewing how Yuhuan was captured by some unknown attacker, but he was right on time to save her. And just like that, Shou Wang goes back to playing the incompetent prince, thanking his brother for saving his dear wife. Shou Wang's not taking the hint to scram, though. He's preaching about hasty judgments, pointing at the busted door like it's some kind of metaphor. He offers to call a handyman and finally takes a hike. Now it's just Shou Wang and Yuhuan, and the air's so thick with tension you could cut it with a chopstick. He's checking her over like she's a priceless vase, asking if she's hurt. But Yuhuan's got questions of her own, wondering why he swooped in to save her. That's when the penny drops. Yuhuan sees right through his act, calling him out on playing dumb to avoid his mom's murderous tendencies. She's all sad that he's shown his hand to the bad guys, but Shou Wang's just dismisses her concerns. Then, plot twist. Shou Wang grabs her chin, looking deep into her eyes like he's trying to read her soul. He drops the million-dollar question. Is she really Yuhuan? Our girl's so shocked she starts stuttering like a nervous court jester. Turns out, Shou Wang's not just a pretty face in fancy robes, he's been piecing this puzzle together. He thinks back to that mountain encounter, realizing something was off from the get-go. He'd brushed it off, thinking she was just having a moment. But now, Now he's seeing the bigger picture. He's got his mom's reaction on replay in his head, the way she looked at Yuhuan like she'd seen a ghost. It's all starting to make sense, like the final pieces of a really complicated jigsaw. His mom wanting Yuhuan out of the picture? Classic power play move. He also remembers that the old Yuhuan was all about making royal babies, but our boy Shou Wang wasn't having it. He knew it was just another chess move in his mom's game for power. Old Yuhuan didn't take the rejection well, calling him a cowardly incompetent. Ouch. Now he's playing spot the difference between old Yuhuan and new Yuhuan. Same face, but totally different vibe. He's determined to crack this case wide open, putting his racing thoughts on pause. Meanwhile, our girl Yuhuan's finally found her voice. She's sticking to her story like glue, playing the amnesia card for all it's worth. But inside, she's having a moral crisis. This near-death experience has her thinking maybe it's time to hang up the Yuhuan hat. But then she looks at Shou Wang, sees a bit of her old self in him, and the guilt hits her like a ton of imperial bricks. Just when she thinks she's got him figured out, he throws her a curveball with a smile. Is she seeing things, or is there more to this prince than meets the eye? While all this is going down, Zhou Meiyin is on the warpath. She's bouncing around in a carriage like a furious ping-pong ball, headed straight for Consort Wu. She's got a pocket full of observations about the prince and his missus, and she's ready to spill the tea. At this point, Zhou Meiyin's steaming mad, like a tea kettle left on the imperial stove too long. She's replaying Shou Wang's heroic rescue of Yuhuan in her head, and it's got her seeing more red than the imperial banners. She's vowing revenge, promising to teach Shou Wang a lesson he won't forget. Hell hath no fury like a court lady scorned, am I right? Meanwhile, Consort Wu's trying to have a little R&R with Emperor Xuanzong. But in this palace, drama doesn't take a day off. Her servants come barging in, announcing Zhou Meiyin's arrival. Consort Wu, probably rolling her eyes internally, tells them to let her in. Zhou Meiyin enters the room like she's walking on eggshells in a dragon's lair. She drops to her knees and apologizes for the urgency. But then she spots the man of the hour, Emperor Xuanzong himself, chilling on Consort Wu's lap like it's his personal throne. Our girl Zhou Meiyin's brain short-circuits for a hot second. She's gawking at the emperor, wondering how he's keeping his youthful glow, but one glare from his imperial grumpiness snaps her back to reality. Now she's spilling the tea like it's going out of style. She paints Yuhuan as this master manipulator, using her health condition to wrap Shou Wang around her little finger, and she's certain it's all an act, a play for sympathy from the prince. But she doesn't stop there. Oh no, she's on a roll. She warns Consort Wu that Yuhuan's trying to drive a wedge between mother and son. Then she pushes for swift action, talking about saving their necks in the future. Consort Wu's intrigued. You can almost see the gears turning in her head. She's wondering what really went down the day Yuhuan supposedly bit the dust. But before she can dive deeper into that rabbit hole, Emperor Xuanzong pipes up. He calls for Shou Wang and Yuhuan. Consort Wu's putting on a performance worthy of the royal theater, all lovey-dovey with the emperor. She echoes his words about seeing Shou Wang again like it's the most brilliant idea she's ever heard. The emperor nods along, mentioning how it's been ages since they've had a family reunion. But hold on to your imperial hats because the emperor's not done. He drops a little history lesson about a family squabble that nearly toppled the whole Tang Dynasty. Talk about family drama. He's suggesting they nip any potential disasters in the bud, even if it means taking out Yuhuan. The look on Consort Wu and Zhou Meiyin's faces? Pure glee. They're practically salivating at the thought of Yuhuan's downfall. Meanwhile, back at Shou Wang's pad, Yuhuan's admiring her reflection like it's the eighth wonder of the world. She's fretting about her outfit, wondering if she's dressed to impress the emperor. Poor Shaolin's in full panic mode, admitting she's never dolled anyone up for a royal audience before. But Yuhuan's all gratitude and grace, telling Shaolin she's done a bang-up job. There's a touching moment between Yuhuan and Shaolin that'll make your heart grow 3 sizes. Shaolin's gushing about Yuhuan's kindness, swearing allegiance like she's joining some secret society. It's all very sweet until reality crashes the party. Shaolin's worried sick about this summons from the emperor, scared something bad's gonna go down. Then Zhou Meiyin and her posse roll up like they own the place. She shows fake concern about Yuan's trip to see the emperor, dropping not-so-subtle hints about the emperor's godlike power over life and death. It's like she's trying to scare Yuan, but our girl's taking it all in stride. Yuan's putting on a brave face, but you can bet she's wondering what kind of imperial storm she's about to walk into. Next scene, Yuan's on her way to see the big cheese himself, the emperor. She's got the jitters, but as soon as she spots Meiyin, it's like she's popped a chill pill. Our girl's walking into that palace like she owns the place, with Xiaolin in tow. Meiyin catches a glimpse of Yuan, and you can practically hear her brain short-circuiting. She's squeezing her face like she's trying to squeeze out the last bit of toothpaste, muttering to herself about how Yuan's got Shou Wang wrapped around her little finger. Poor Meiyin's looking like she just bit into a lemon. Yuan, cool as a cucumber, thanks Meiyin and turns to leave. Meiyin puts on her best fake smile, probably wishing Yuan would trip on her fancy robes. Next comes Shou Wang. He checks if Yuan's done with her business, and she's all, "Yeah, we're good." Now, Shou Wang and Yuan have scampered off to another corner of the palace. Just then, Zikong enters, claiming he has some dirt on Yuan's attack, courtesy of some chatty villagers and merchants. But before he can spill the tea, Shou Wang cuts him off, saying he's already handled it. The look on Shou Wang's face? It's like trying to read a book in a language you don't know. And Zikong? He's eyeing Yuan like she's a puzzle he can't solve. He's made up his mind not to trust her, probably thinking she's trouble with a capital T. Finally, the main event. Yuan and Shou Wang are face-to-face with the Emperor and Empress. Shou Wang apologizes for not coming to see him sooner, but the Emperor couldn't care less. He's just stoked to see his boy in one piece. The Emperor asks for Yuan's name, and when she introduces herself as Shou Wang's wife, you could hear a pin drop. The Emperor and Empress look like they've just seen a ghost do the imperial dance. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Emperor's grinning at Yuan like he's just found a new toy, eyes wide open, and drops this bombshell. Do you desire power? Talk about a loaded question. The Emperor then drops a bombshell. He's asking for Yuan's hand in marriage. Poor Shou Wang looks like he's seen a ghost. You can practically see the fear radiating off him like heat from a dragon's breath. But our girl Yuan? She's not about to roll over and play dead. She decides to fight for her man, playing it smart by asking to be the first wife if she agrees. It's a power move that would make even the wiliest politicians nod in approval. The Empress is trying to defuse the situation, whispering to the Emperor to quit his teasing. But he's not joking. The other wives are muttering like a bunch of gossipy hens, thinking it's all hot air. But the Emperor's not backing down. Instead, he offers Yuan the title of Guifei. Yuan's not having it. She goes off on the Emperor like a firecracker, calling him out for his insolence. But the Emperor's cool as a cucumber, telling her to simmer down and think it over. Meanwhile, Shou Wang's shaking like a leaf in a storm, probably wondering if he's trapped in some bizarre nightmare. The Emperor continues trying to sweet-talk Yuan into changing her mind. But our girl's standing firm. He's telling her to give up on her Empress dreams. Apparently, it's a one Empress per lifetime deal, and that slot's already filled. He keeps pushing the Guifei title, saying it suits her like a glove. And in the corner, there's Meiyin, grinning like a cat that just got the keys to the Imperial Cream Factory. She's over the moon, thinking all her wicked schemes are finally paying off. Pardon my ignorance, Yuan mouths, pointing out the memory loss situation and getting a bit confused. She questions if Guifei is the highest title. The Emperor nods, explaining it's the cream of the crop, just shy of Empress. And get this, it's even higher than Consort Wu's rank. You could practically hear Consort Wu's teeth grinding from across the room. The Emperor maintains an indifferent expression as she talks about Guifei being the title he created on her behalf, but she surely holds a higher rank if tradition is to be involved, and her face lit with a priceless smile. Meanwhile, Consort Wu's about to blow her top. She erupts like a volcano in fancy robes, screaming at the Emperor about shame and propriety. She's going on about facing the people, while the Emperor looks about as interested as a cat at a dog show. Then she rounds on Yuan, accusing her of being a status-hungry, husband-ditching, throne-grabbing menace. It's like watching a royal version of Jerry Springer. But Yuhuan? Cool as ice. She's thanking the Emperor for his offer, playing the confused amnesiac to perfection. Inside Yuhuan's head, it's strategy central. She's playing 4D chess, figuring out how to dodge the Emperor's offer without offending him, and maybe even turn Consort Wu into an ally. Then comes the masterstroke. Yuhuan drops to her knees, all gratitude and deference. She's asking to stay with Shou Wang to regain her memories, and here's the kicker, calls Consort Wu, "Dear Mother." You can almost hear the gears grinding in Consort Wu's head as she realizes she's been outplayed. Consort Wu's trapped like a tiger in a net, forced to play along. She's suggesting Yuhuan recuperate under Shou Wang's care, but you can bet she's plotting revenge behind that fake smile. As they're dismissed, the Emperor gives Yuhuan this look that's creepier than a ghost in the Imperial Garden. His wife's glaring daggers at him, probably wishing looks could kill. Our dearest queen is an emotional mess after observing the way her husband ogles Yuhuan. His words might say one thing, but those eyes? They're telling a whole different story. It's clear as day he's got no intention of letting his son keep his wife. The queen's mind is working overtime, cooking up a plan that spells nothing but trouble for poor Yuhuan. Meanwhile, the young couple exits the palace, and Yuhuan strikes up a conversation about how well the meeting went, but Shou Wang is mostly silent with an unreadable expression. Zikong spots them from a distance and alerts Shaolin of their arrival. She immediately rushes to embrace her mistress, happy she looks fine. On the other hand, Zikong strikes up a conversation, but he's met with the same silent treatment Yuhuan got minutes earlier, and the latter can't help but wonder what is wrong. She recalls how kind he was to her on their way to the palace, wondering if she had done something wrong. Now, let's take a peek inside Shou Wang's head. It's like a storm in there, folks. He's reliving that moment when his dad tried to snag his wife like it was no big deal. It's got him questioning everything. His worth, his role, even his obligations. The poor guy's wondering if he's just supposed to hand over his wife like she's a chess piece in some twisted game. He's worried sick about what Yuhuan might do next. That smile she gave when the Emperor made his offer? It's haunting him like a ghost at a royal banquet. He's praying she won't fall into the greed trap like others before her. It's got him thinking back to the good old days with his brother Sheng Wang before power and greed turned everything sour. Back at the mansion, Shou Wang's playing it safe. He's not taking any chances, just in case Yuhuan decides to flip the script on him. And who should be lurking in the shadows but our resident troublemaker, Mei Yin. She's spotted the tension between the lovebirds and that sinister smile on her face. It's screaming, "Let's stir up some drama!" Poor Yuhuan's left feeling down in the dumps over Shou Wang's silent treatment. She's hoping she can weather this storm, but Shaolin's worried face isn't helping matters. Yuhuan brushes it off, blaming her mood on the journey, but we all know there's more to this story. As night falls, Consort Wu finds herself unable to sleep, lost in thought as she stares blankly into the candlelight. Li Linfu shows up unexpectedly, and Wu wastes no time getting her seated. They chat about the Emperor, with Li Linfu learning he's been taking something that knocks him out cold. Wu laughs wickedly, but Li Linfu isn't amused. Getting down to business, Wu asks Li Linfu for a deadly poison, one that even she, as a witch doctor, couldn't survive. Li Linfu's intrigued but wants to know who it's for. The next day, Yuhuan's in a foul mood with Mei Yin pestering her non-stop. Mei Yin keeps trying to hang out, oblivious to Yuhuan's irritation. She finally pipes up about Yuhuan acting weird since seeing the Emperor, even apologizing for accidentally locking her in during their last tea time. Yuhuan's not buying it and storms off with Mei Yin hot on her heels. Meanwhile, Shou Wang's mulling over his wife. He's pretty sure she won't be swayed by greed, and is secretly impressed by how she handled his father. He makes a mental note to thank her later, almost cracking a smile. Later on, Zhou Mei Yin's running her mouth about the happy couple, driving Yuhuan up the wall. Yuhuan's trying to keep her cool while plotting to get rid of this chatterbox. She decides to beat Mei Yin at her own game. Yuhuan reminds Mei Yin that her only job is to have Shou Wang's kid and that their marriage is just for show. She tells Mei Yin to pretend she doesn't exist. Little does Yuhuan know, Shou Wang overhears everything. He acts like it doesn't bother him, but the damage is done. Mei Yin's loving every second of it, while Yuhuan's shooting daggers with her eyes. Shou Wang can't hide how bummed out he is. He walks off, leaving the toxic vibes behind. Yuhuan calls after him, feeling guilty as hell. She knows she has no right to reach out after all the mean stuff she said, so she just stands there, trying to look innocent while getting why he's keeping his distance. As Shou Wang wanders around, clearing his head, he thinks back to a time when he felt something in his chest. A first for him. It meant something, but it looks like Yuan doesn't feel the same way. He tells himself he's cool with that, but who knows if he really is. He figures getting serious with him would just make her life harder anyway. Meanwhile, Yuhuan's amazed at how fast he vanished. In the middle of all this drama, Meiyan's over the moon about her win, feeling lucky that the princess dug her own grave. She's already cooking up her next scheme to get Shou Wang on her side by wrecking whatever's growing between him and Yuhuan. Later, it's pouring outside. Yuhuan's by the window, taking in the rain, still a mess over what went down with her husband. Xiaolin sneaks a peek at her, feeling useless because she can't do anything to help. She nearly jumps out of her skin when another servant shows up, asking to see Yuhuan. The servant kneels in front of Yuhuan with a gift, saying it's from the Emperor, some medicine that's supposed to help with memory loss. Yuhuan's surprised by the gesture. Meanwhile, a servant tells Consort Wu that her orders have been carried out. Wu thinks back to her chat with the witch doctor about the poison, how it'll make the victims suffer before they kick the bucket. The women share a creepy laugh as Wu decides to send the poison as a gift from the Emperor. Back in the present, she whispers for Yuhuan to die, like she's casting a spell or something. And there's Yuhuan, staring at the gift without any expression at all. Xiaolin's totally psyched about the Emperor's gift for Yuhuan. She's teasing her about how the Emperor must have a thing for her, and Yuhuan remembers the hungry look he gave her at the palace. Xiaolin's bouncing off the walls, begging Yuhuan to take the medicine so she can get her memories back. Yuhuan just mutters, maybe, knowing full well it won't do jack since she never lost her memories in the first place. She's wondering if it's safe to drink, thinking it's weird there's a pill for amnesia when she doesn't remember hearing about one back in the 21st century. She figures it's probably just some useless herbal mix. She decides to go for it, thinking it won't do anything anyway, so it should be safe, right? She tells Xiaolin to get it ready, and the girl scampers off, all excited. Yuan's checking out the fancy box, thinking it's pretty over the top for some medicine, but hey, it's from the Emperor. She gets a whiff of something funky when she sniffs it closer, putting her on edge. Meanwhile, Shou Wang hears about the Emperor's gift from a servant. He's low-key pissed that his old man's sending stuff to his wife when he never gets anything. Daddy issues much? His mom's only into power, and he thought Yuan was different. But now he's not so sure. He figures his dad wouldn't mess with the medicine since he's so into Yuan, so it should be safe. Back in Yuan's room, Xiaolin's serving up the medicine, hoping it'll work and snap her mistress out of her funk. Yuan's torn about drinking it, worried about the trouble she might get into if she doesn't. Xiaolin's all eager to see her drink it. Yuan keeps eyeing that fancy box, getting weird vibes, especially after that funky smell she can't quite place. She's about to take a sip, thinking her mind's just playing tricks on her. Meanwhile, Consort Wu's in her room, daydreaming about Yuan choking on her own blood. Talk about dark thoughts. So Yuan's about to take a sip when that weird smell hits her again. Xiaolin's watching with big eyes, and then BAM! Yuan chucks the cup, smashing it on the floor. She's breathing hard, staring at the spilled stuff like it's gonna kill her. Which, yeah, it probably would have. It hits her. That smell is Consort Wu's fancy perfume. She's wondering if Wu and the Emperor cooked this up together. Her head's spinning with questions, but Xiaolin's freaking out snaps her out of it. Yuan asks her for a favor, brushing off the maid's drama. Next thing you know, Xiaolin's back with a little pot of fish. Some nice gardener caught it in the rain. Yuan feels bad for sending her out in that weather, but Xiaolin's cool with it. Yuan drops some of the medicine in with the fish. Poor little guy's swimming around, no clue what's coming. Then out of nowhere, it starts thrashing, bleeding all over. Yuan and Xiaolin are watching this horror show, feeling the room get dark and heavy. Later, Xiaolin's having a total meltdown. She wanted to help her mistress, but instead, she nearly got her killed. She's going on about how she's always there for Yuan. This lady, Miss Mei Mei, shows up out of the blue. They both look like they haven't slept in days. Mei Mei starts griping about her annoying coworkers, saying she regrets working for Mei Yin. It's turned her into a nobody. Then, she's like, "Hey, what if I worked for your mistress instead?" Switch scenes, and there's Mei Yin trying to get one of Shou Wang's guys to sleep with her. He's not having it, all loyal to his boss and stuff. But Mei Yin keeps pushing, offering herself up for all the juicy details about Shou Wang. She thinks this'll give her the inside scoop to use against Yuan. After they do the deed, the guy stumbles out. Mei Yin's watching him leave, hating his guts and hating herself for stooping so low. But in her mind, it's all Yuan's fault for getting in her way. So it's early morning and the birds are chirping away. Xiaolin's chatting with Yuan about her co-worker, and this lady Mei Mei jumps in to introduce herself. She's all about wanting to serve Yuan. Yuan's like, serve? As if it's some weird foreign word. She gives Xiaolin a side-eye, wondering how hard she worked to get her friend on board. Yuan's cool with it though, and thanks Xiaolin. The girls are all giggly, but then we see this creepy smile on Mei Mei's face. What's she up to? Over at the palace, Consort Wu's gripping her fingers so hard you'd think they might snap off. She's losing it because she hasn't heard any juicy gossip about the princess kicking the bucket. Her mind's racing with questions, and then it hits her. Maybe that witch doctor isn't as trustworthy as she thought. Getting all paranoid, she yells for her maid. The poor girl's apologizing for being slow, but Wu's not having it. She tells her to brew up some of that medicine. When the maid comes back with it, Wu tries to get her to drink it, going on about how great it is for heart problems. She's pointing out how tired the maid looks, trying to push the drink on her, but the maid's not buying it. She's like, "No way, that's for the princess. I can't drink that." Smart cookie. The consort's getting antsy, pushing the maid with all this talk about keeping the servants healthy. The maid finally gives in and takes a big gulp. But then, bam! The cup hits the floor and she's choking, bleeding all over, just like that poor fish earlier. Consort Wu's just standing there, looking at her like she's dirt, not even lifting a finger to help. She's figuring out just how deadly this stuff is. It clicks that the princess must have known about the poison. She's ticked off that Yuan had the nerve to refuse the emperor's gift. She figures the emperor would have been furious if he knew, unless he never knew about it in the first place. Wu knows better than to make a big deal out of this mess. She's in hot water if the emperor finds out she used his name to pull this stunt. She's already cooking up her next move, thinking about sending more medicine. Meanwhile, Yuan's trying to figure out what game Wu's playing. She's whispering to Xiaolin about it, while Mei Mei's just taking it all in, watching the drama unfold. Mei Mei breaks the silence, making Yuan and Xiaolin jump. She's asking if she should make tea, but Yuan tells her to forget it. Xiaolin's all worked up, trying to spill about what went down at the palace, but Yuan shuts her up quick, hinting about the leftover medicine. She whispers to Xiaolin, telling her to keep quiet so they don't freak Mei Mei out. Xiaolin agrees, but Yuan's not really buying Mei Mei's act. She's thinking they need to keep this poison business on the down low and figure out how to ditch the deadly medicine. Next thing you know, Mei Yin's screaming her head off about something her guard told her. He's nodding, yeah, it's true, and spills about more medicine showing up. Even Shou Wang's shocked. Flashback to Zikong ribbing Shou Wang about never getting gifts from the emperor. Zikong's trying to make sense of it, saying Yuan is Shou Wang's wife after all. He tries to change the subject, joking about all the women at the palace, but can't help thinking Yuan's special to the emperor. Back to Mei Yin, she's putting it all together. This weird love triangle between father, son, and Yuan. She thinks it's ridiculous, something even other kingdoms would laugh at. She's got this crazy idea about showing her true colors and saving the Tang Dynasty. Delusional much? Her servant's stumbling over his words, trying to ask something. Mei Yin just shoves his face in her chest, telling him to keep doing his job. Next day, the emperor and his wife are chilling. She brings up the medicine he gave her, and he's going on about how great it is, made by top-notch pharmacists. She's grinning like the cat that got the cream, thinking her plan's foolproof this time. She's already picturing Yuan 6 feet under when her memory doesn't come back. A servant busts in with a letter from Yuan for the Emperor. Consort Wu looks horrified. Meanwhile, back at Shou Wang's place, Yuan's racking her brain for a safe way to get rid of the medicine. Yuan's sniffing the box again, expecting that funky perfume from before. But surprise, surprise, it smells different. She's really checking out the box this time, noticing how fancy it is. Then it hits her. This might actually be from the Emperor. Mei pipes up, suggesting Yuan write a thank you note to the Emperor, whether she drinks the stuff or not. Xiaolin's all excited about the idea, apologizing for not thinking of it herself. Yuan just laughs it off, but gives Mei a big hug. She rolls her eyes at their giggling and gets back to thinking. She figures the last gift was definitely from Consort Wu. She's glad she didn't send a letter then, but now she's thinking maybe she should, just to tell Wu to knock it off. Later, Wu's side-eyeing the Emperor as he reads the letter, looking totally unbothered. She's got a million questions running through her head, but tries to play it cool. The Emperor crumples up the letter and turns on Wu, asking what she's done. Wu's freaking out, wondering if Yuan spilled about the poison. She denies everything, begging the Emperor to ignore it. The Emperor's fuming. He shoves the letter in Wu's face, making her read it. She's shaking, eyes wild. He's towering over her, asking if she lied using his name. Wu's still playing innocent, even bringing up her health. The Emperor's not buying it. He shoves her to the ground, yelling about her lame lie. He swears she'll be sorry if anything happens to Yuan. Then he hits her where it hurts, threatening to reconsider making Shou Wang crown prince. Wu scrambles out of there. The Emperor's admiring the flower that came with the letter, muttering about how clever Yuan is to take down Wu with just a letter. He's realizing he wants Yuan no matter what. Then he just bites the flower. Weird flex, but okay. So, Xiaolin's worried Yuan's caught a cold, trying to give her some hot tea. Yuan's like, "Nah, I'm good," while she's checking out this pink rose by the window. Mei jumps in, saying they should have sent the Emperor something fancier, hoping he won't be ticked off by their lame gift. Xiaolin pipes up that she's done writing, and Yuan's all, "Good job," but wonders why they need to send a gift too. Mei's racking her brain for the perfect gift for a guy who's got everything, which Yuan agrees with. Yuan flashes back to her past life as a newsgirl. This one time, after delivering papers, an old lady gave her a flower from her garden. The lady thought Yuan might not want it, what with all the stuff young people have these days, but Yuan was totally grateful. Back in the present, Yuan's telling Mei it's the thought that counts, even with little gifts. She starts thinking about Shou Wang, wishing she could explain herself, and all that lovey-dovey stuff. Over in the Emperor's room, the consort's eyeing the mess of flower petals. She's so mad, she starts stomping on them. She can't figure out why Yuan would give him just a flower, thinking it'll never soften his heart. She calls in Mei, who shows up all bowy. Next thing you know, the consort's chucking a teacup across the room, yelling at Mei for not seducing Shou Wang. Mei's stuttering, trying to explain the drama between Shou Wang and Yuan. The consort's not having it. She's screaming that Mei's too soft, saying Yuan will run to the king if they split her and Shou Wang up. She calls Mei useless, which, let's face it, she kind of is, and threatens to ruin her. Poor Mei's crying her eyes out, apologizing like crazy. Consort Wu's had it with the apologies. Mei's begging for another shot. Wu's glaring daggers, spewing nasty stuff about giving Yuan what's coming to her. Wu acts all pleased until she yanks Mei's hair, hissing about how much she hates Yuan but can't kill her or the Emperor will have her head. Wu's done playing. She tells Mei to make Yuan's life a living hell, no death, just endless misery. Mei agrees, voice shaking. Cut to Mei getting slapped hard. Her boss, Mei is screaming about the letter to the Emperor. No surprise, Mei's a rat. We saw that coming. Mei's rubbing her cheek, trying to defend herself, but Mei's not having it. She's blaming Mei for her mess with Wu. Mei half-asses an apology, clearly ticked that Mei's taking everything out on her. Now she hates Yuan even more for this mess. Mei cuts in, passing on Wu's orders to make Yuan suffer. She tells Mei Mei to step up or else, and Mei Mei scurries off. Suddenly, Shou Wang pops out of a tree, telling Mei Yin to be more careful with her secret chats. He's curious if his mom ordered the Yuan takedown. Before she can answer, he's got her pinned to the tree, suggesting they team up. Mei Yin's all about making Yuan suffer, laying out a plan to make her fall hard for Shou Wang. Shou Wang adds to the plan. Kill his brother, Yuan loses her man. He steps in as the new crown prince and makes Yuan his princess. They shake on it, but Mei Yin's thinking she better make Yuan suffer, or Wu will have her head. Next day, the sneaky servants lead Shou Wang and Yuan to a room. When they see each other, Yuan's at a loss for what to do. Yuan's mind wanders to their last field meetup, realizing how long it's been since they saw each other thanks to that poison mess. The awkwardness is thick enough to cut with a knife, while their servants, more like spies, share a quick nod. Mei Mei pipes up, suggesting a peony garden trip. Right on cue, the prince's servant chimes in about how gorgeous the peonies are at noon. Yuan's internally screaming, thinking things can't get worse. She tries to put it off, but Mei Mei's not having it. Getting all huffy about how Yuan treats Xiaolin. Out of nowhere, Shou Wang offers his hand, inviting her to see the peonies. And would you believe it, she takes it. He leads the way, and it's like a real-life Cinderella moment. They're strolling through the garden, quiet as mice, just taking in the flowers. Yuan breaks the ice, commenting on their beauty. Shou Wang agrees, but man, the awkwardness is still there. Yuan's brain's going a mile a minute, they're debating whether to apologize. Suddenly, Shou Wang sends the servants away. Yuan looks like she's seen a ghost, wondering if she should bolt too. But she stays put, and they're just staring at each other, Shou Wang clearly smitten. Meanwhile, Mei Yin and Shou Wang are spying from afar, Shou Wang praising her spy game. Mei Yin's fuming, watching Shou Wang and Yuan get all cozy. She's wishing he'd looked her way from the start, practically shooting lasers from her eyes at the couple. Shou Wang, all flustered, brings up their last encounter. He asks if she meant what she said or if it was just to ditch Mei Yin. Yuan's shocked, but agrees after a beat. He says to forget it all and apologizes for bugging her, then turns to leave. Yuan's feeling sorry and a bit heartbroken. She's screaming inside for him to wait, but finally blurts it out, grabbing his robe. He asks what's up, but she's just holding on, trying to figure out how to say sorry. Flashback to Yuan's past. She's getting bullied by 3 mean girls who knock her down. She's crying as they make her apologize just for being herself. It's a scene she's been through way too many times. Back to now, Yuan's trying to shake off those nasty memories. She's struggling to find the right words for Shou Wang. He sees she's having a hard time and tells her to take it easy. He's all ears whenever she's ready to talk. Finally, Yuan spills. She never meant to hurt him and doesn't know how to say sorry. Shou Wang's surprised, thinking she didn't want to see him. He gets it now and apologizes for taking so long to understand. Then, boom, Shou Wang's on his knees, saying he hates seeing her so down. He asks what he can do, promising to do anything she wants. Yuan's totally blown away, but her brain's yelling at her to focus. "I want to talk," she blurts out. Seeing his confused face, she adds, "They need to chat first," wondering what the heck she's even saying. Shou Wang's on board, figuring she's got a ton of questions after losing her memory. He says he wants to get to know the new her, and Yuan's heart just melts. Meanwhile, the creepy duo's watching from afar. Shou Wang's all smiles about their plan working, but Mei Yin's steaming. Shou Wang notices and asks what's up, but she plays it off with a fake laugh. After a quiet moment, Mei Yin asks Shou Wang why he's got it out for his brother. He goes off about how Shou Wang stole everything just because he's older, swearing to take it all back. Mei Yin's giving him some serious side-eye. Shou Wang hops out the window, but as he's leaving, he hears something. He looks around but just sees falling leaves. Then, out of nowhere, Zikong jumps him. Okay, so Zikong's outside, hears something, and pulls out his sword, ready for trouble. Turns out it's just Shou Wang, who also whips out his sword. When they spot each other, they both chill and put their swords away. Zikong starts chatting about how Shou Wang's changed. He goes on about how, back in the day, Shou Wang was this happy-go-lucky kid who looked up to his brother. But now, he's like a whole different person, barely talking to anyone. Shou Wang cuts him off, all thinsen. people change. You're just a servant, you wouldn't get it. He tries to leave, but Zikong warns him not to sneak around like that again. Shou Wang just sighs, tells Zikong he can't do anything to him, and walks off. Later, the emperor's wives are gossiping. They're all, "Where's the emperor been?" They think Consort Wu ticked him off or something. Wu can hear all this trash talk and she's not happy. Suddenly, they hear footsteps. It's the emperor. He walks in where Wu's sitting and starts sweet-talking her. Wu's totally confused, thinking he was mad at her, but nope. Next morning, Mei brings a ton of fresh cookies to Yuan's room. Yuan's psyched and invites her servants to join. Shaolin's all for it, but Mei suggests inviting Shou Wang instead. Yuan freaks out at the idea, trying to convince them to just have a girls' tea party. But Mei and Shaolin are dead set on inviting Shou Wang. Mei even offers to send the invite herself and tells Yuan to dress up. Later, Shou Wang shows up. He walks in, starts to say something, but stops dead when he sees Yuan looking absolutely stunning. The drama is just getting started. Want us to continue? Comment Yuan below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a lot. Until next time, ciao.